Hello and welcome to the third installment of 5 on It News. I am Edwin Leskin, and this is a daily video blog that is meant to take the most geopolitically impacting stories and give them over to you in an easy to understand and quick manner. I've been a little too quick with my words recently in the past two videos, and so I'm going to slow it down a little bit today, hopefully. And that brings me to the fact that I got some really good advice and responses from people. A lot of support, but then also some good advice on ways to tweak things. So I want to give a shout out to Music Metamorphosis, one of the correspondents or editors or even the director there, I'm not really sure, hit me up and said, hey, so the big articles that you're featuring at the beginning before your quick mentions, which are where I go through and just, karate out a bunch of stories, a lot of us have seen those stories, maybe not everybody, but the majority of people definitely have. And so it's not, necessarily hooking because it's like, okay, I got to get through the stuff that I already know about. So today my plan was to go ahead and move the quick mentions to the forefront, and talk about all this interesting stuff going on in the world, and then to go in deep at the end. Unfortunately, there's not that much news today, and I apologize if I go over today. When there's not that much news, I feel like I want to talk about it a little bit more. And so since it's all quick mentions, I might go a little bit too deep into some of these stories, but I think they're very interesting. I want you to know about them. So without further ado, let's get to it. Third day of 5 on It News. Let's go. Quick mention. So I talked about Boko Haram yesterday, and I talked a little bit about Sudan, and somebody commented and said, hey, love hearing about Africa, and I think it's important to, check up what's going on all over the world, so I'm going to try to intersperse more news about Africa. And there's kind of a point that I want to bring in with these stories. So about 10 days ago, the country of Chad sent troops to Nigeria to fight Boko Haram, which is the Islamic extremist kind of rebel group that has been causing so many problems over there. Niger troops today also have been sent. There's been a deployment of troops. The Parliament unanimously approved to send troops to fight Boko Haram in Nigeria. And Boko Haram then today launched their first deadly attack against Chad. So I think this is important for you to know just because, this is involving more countries now. We've got all these different areas. We've got Nigeria, we've got Chad, we've got Niger, and drawing, more countries, more militaries into the conflict. I think it's also very important to remember that this fight against Islamic extremism, we might, scroll past, oh yeah, there's some stuff going on in Africa. No, this is very, very much in the faces of many of the people in many of the countries in Africa. I mean, there's active, deadly clashes going on. And we might think that we could be able to solve this problem in the Middle East, but this problem is not just in the Middle East. I mean, we're like, oh, no, it's in Paris. Now it's in America. It is really in Africa. Oh, now it's in Australia. No, it's really in Africa, and it has been in Africa. It will continue to be. There's a large Muslim population. There's also a lot of economic, problems and, famine, all these things. They all cause civil unrest. So I think that it's important to note that. Okay, so I'm going to move on. I'm going to talk about Yemen. Just as we closed our embassy a couple days ago in Yemen because of the fighting that's starting to happen there, the Saudis evacuated their embassy staff from Yemen as well. So this is the first Arab country to evacuate the embassy staff from, I believe, Sana'a is where the embassies are, the capital, after the Houthis took the government in a coup a couple weeks ago. So things are ramping up there. I will stay on that. I think it's very interesting. Going back to Myanmar, yesterday I was talking about Myanmar clashes in between Chinese border guards and these rebels. I got that wrong. These Chinese border guards might have been indirectly involved, but there's just clashes in between the soldiers of Myanmar and the rebel group that has been causing a lot of problems. We call them insurgents, of course, clashing near a Chinese border. 47 soldiers were killed today. I'm going to try to stay up on that. It looks like things are definitely heating up in Myanmar, so I'm going to try to stay on it. Moving on, I love this story. For the past 10 years in Baghdad, the capital of Iraq, there's been a curfew, a nightly curfew. And tonight, or I guess last night, the curfew was lifted. I think that's an amazing story. There are, pictures of people driving around on motorcycles, waving flags, having a great time. Just imagine that, living in a country wrecked by war for 10 years, not being able to go out at night, and then it's lifted. And then there's a lot of, problems going on in Iraq, obviously, but that's just a wonderful little moment for those people. Okay, so moving on, I just want to talk about the whales, man. There's 198 whales stranded on a New Zealand beach. I don't think this is because of climate change. I'm not sure. The article, I think it's too early to know, but man, I love whales. I think they're great. Big mammals. They swim. Beautiful. New Zealand, get it. You can get it. You can get these whales back in the ocean. Apparently, it's very challenging too, but I believe in you, New Zealand. For the whales. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about cybersecurity again. So this is a little two-part story. Obama and the White House are hosting a summit kind of CEOs in Silicon Valley talking about them sharing all of their cybersecurity information. And they're talking about hacking threats and how to defend against these hacking threats. I think that's very interesting that we're taking that more seriously. We definitely should in the age that we're in. And also, Barack Obama, our president, is going to sign an executive order on Friday. It's going to encourage companies to share more information about the cybersecurity threats. If you remember what happened recently with Sony, that was really bad. We want that to stop happening. So hopefully that will go well. I think that it's a positive step, personally. I mean, intelligence communities need to share what's going on. You know, we're all on the same side trying to stop this from happening. Okay, so... I want to talk now just very briefly. I think this is really cool. Bradley Manning, the whistleblower, has been approved for hormone treatment, and she will now become Chelsea Manning. I think she's in prison for 35 years for whistleblowing against the government. You can look up online what Bradley Manning did, what he divulged. But he's going to get the hormone treatment while incarcerated. To become Chelsea Manning. I think that's really, really cool. And even though it's kind of weird circumstance, it is still a victory for the transgender community, which is a community that pulls my heartstrings. I think they're under a tremendous amount of persecution that isn't really recognized. So, okay, I want to move on now to a very interesting article from Fox News. We'll see how credible it is as time develops. But, I just say that not because Fox News' credibility is like completely in question. It's just sometimes stories come out and they got to backtrack on them. So we'll see, how much this floats. But it's very interesting. So we've been pulling our troops out of Afghanistan, but we started to slow that pull on a request from Ashraf Ghani, the Afghan president. We're going to still have 5,500 troops there by the end of the year. Now, apparently, there's a contact saying that I believe it's the New York Times. When the New York Times reported that there was some intelligence seized in October of last year, a laptop with a bunch of stuff. So we've been conducting special night missions with the Afghani forces, and apparently there's a lot of conflict going on. The source to the story was like, you won't see this, but this is a secret war, a quiet war that is going on every single night. These heavy raids. Apparently, the Afghan government freed up a little bit the way that nighttime raids can be conducted, and so we're striking at Taliban and Al Qaeda. It's very, very interesting to me that this will be going on. We'll see if we really get to know more about that. Another thing that I need to mention, of course, as was noted yesterday, there was some speculation that the fighting in Ukraine would spark just before this new ceasefire is going to be implemented. Go ahead and check out yesterday's video if you want to know about those talks. And even the day before, it's been in the news a good bit. It's very important. But yes, this fighting is flaring up. There are more people dying, and it's getting intense over there. Ukraine also, just a quick note from yesterday, I got some figures. They're expecting $15 billion from creditors. That's a lot of money. Okay, so let's move on now to kind of the major story for today. Those were the quick mentions. Major story for today that you're going to see if you go on the major news websites. Let me check my time real quick. Okay, cool. I totally have time to do something that I want to do here. I want to talk about the story. I'm going to give you the details. I'm going to talk a little bit about media consumption and about how my experience today with media consumption is very telling of how you have to go about intaking your news. Because I got two different things from two different sources, and they weren't what I would have thought I would have gotten from the two sources. Put together, they make a full story, of course. ISIS, I'm going to keep on saying ISIS. It's easy for me to say. It rolls off the tongue. I do these in all one take. And I try to do it in under 3 takes just for timeliness. I have a lot of things going on. So I'm going to say ISIS. There's a couple ways to say it. We have enough time for me to say ISIS, Islamic State in Iraq and Syria. That name draws the conflict into those two countries. ISIL, which our government prefers, Islamic State in Iraq and the Levant. The Levant is a larger geographical region that covers more nations and gives more weight to what ISIS is trying to do. And then ISIS calls themselves the Islamic State. We don't want to call them that, obviously, because we don't want to give them some sort of credibility as a state. They're not a state. They're a bunch of bloodthirsty, rebels that are committing major atrocities. So I'm going to talk about ISIS. They're closing in on a major Iraqi airbase. They did an attack on a town of al-Baghdadi, fairly close to Baghdad, not too far. And this is near a base where our troops are training Iraqi forces. So they're closing in. They're taking over 90% of the town, I believe. And it's, this place has been besieged for months, and they did a 3-point attack, a successful attack, took over most of the town, and they're very close, just a few kilometers away from our soldiers that are out there doing training. Now, I think that this is interesting just because, you'd expect with this story that we'd be like, oh my God. No. Apparently, there's been no status change with our forces. There was like a couple shells that came kind of close to the base. We're not concerned about it, apparently. We're not pulling out our people yet. There are, really no status change. There's no major concerns yet. I think that we this is my own speculation, maybe we just don't think that they're going to attack a coalition base. They've never done that. We can call an airstrike upon airstrike to a coalition base very, very quickly. So it's not necessarily a good idea unless they've got something up their sleeve. So maybe we're not concerned about it. But yes, we'll see how this goes. We've got these ISIS fighters. They're close to our personnel. And our personnel are authorized to defend themselves, obviously, with the weapons that they carry on them from the people that might be carrying weapons and coming towards them and shooting. So if that happens in any instance, our soldiers are going to attack back. I think we also have, well-earned bravado that we could crush, ISIS fighters in head-to-head combat. But I do want to remind people as well that, we waged war in these countries for a couple years, and that war, that was training. We bled them. We, killed off a lot of them. The ones that survived, the ones that stuck it out, these are battle-hardened, more strategically focused and more capable militants that we're fighting over there. So we'll see how it goes. I hope that there is no direct threat or any loss of life of any American citizens that are over there trying to help out the situation in the military. So, okay. Now we will talk about my intake of that story. So I really like this story came kind of from two places. I read it on a bunch of websites, but mostly from Al Jazeera and from CNN. I love Al Jazeera. They're based over there in the Middle East. Their main headquarters are in the UAE, I think, and they or Saudi Arabia. No, I think it's the UAE. They seem to be very unbiased. They seem to get good news. They don't seem to early report and not give the full story. They seem to, give a well-structured, well-flavored, look at everything. And their story, if I had just read their story, it would have been it's this ISIL fighters closing on major Iraqi air base. Oh my God. Wow. They're just right by our soldiers. U.S. soldiers are in trouble. That's the vibe of it. And I almost just put that down. I said, oh my gosh, let's talk about it. Okay. Then I went to CNN and I read the article, and the CNN had a better source. They had a correspondent that is from U.S. Central Command, and they're the ones where that information came from that we're not really concerned about it, yet. I don't have a status change, and the literal subtitle of the article is "No Direct Threat to U.S. Personnel." So it just goes to show you that you really do have to go to multiple sources, and you put together a couple pieces of a story, and then you kind of get a full picture of what's going on. Can't rely on one source. I'm going to try to do that with all the major articles that I cover, is get a couple angles so I can condense them and give them over to you in as unbiased and as clear a way and as correct a way as I possibly can. I notice that I'm going to make some missteps in conceptualizing things as I go through this. That is okay. That definitely happens. So that is the story. The stories for today. We did the quick mention. We talked about the major story of the day, and I got to give a little bit of insight into what the experience, for major media consumers is. You check your favorite website. Oh my gosh, check another one. Well, not really. It's very interesting. And I'm going to try to do little segments at the end of things. I think maybe tomorrow, if there's not much going on, I'm going to try to talk about international relations, political theory, just a little bit about realism, constructivism, and liberalism, and what those are. And, I think it'll be cool to do little experiments here at the end. I want to close up quick. We're already almost at 14 minutes. I'd like to keep these to 10 minutes. We'll see if we ever get there. But so little segments at the end. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you have any suggestions, if you like the format of having it at the beginning, the quick mention at the beginning, I'm going to keep on trying it out. I tried to talk a little bit slower, a little bit more articulate. We'll see how it goes. I'm feeling getting better at this, and all the feedback really helps. So please like, share, favorite, subscribe. Facebook is in the comments. So go there, like it, and share the video. They will be posted there if you're on Facebook a lot. I'm going to try to do Twitter soon. And I hope you enjoyed the video. Like I said, I hope it was helpful. And I hope you have an amazing day. It's a beautiful day here in Asheville, North Carolina. I'm going to try to do some yard work. We'll see how it goes. I've got a couple meetings as well. This is Edwin Leskin, the third installment of 5 On It News, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.